One other thing I got from the book, Grateful, is that you've got an almost immeasurable sort of respect for Bruce Prichard, and I hadn't really realised how close you two were. Did that sort of relationship and trust build from when you were in WWE in 2002 onwards?
Yeah. Yeah. But when I got to WWE, it was such a unique experience because for so many years I was hated. I mean, people close to Vince, like were really close to Vince, and and some of them I'm really good friend. Jerry Briscoe, by the way, who was very, very close to Vince back then, and went through a lot of the darkest periods of time, the drug trial, and all of the really tough
The
times
war
in
room
WWE.
kind of years.
Yeah, Jerry Briscoe is right there, you know, ready to do whatever he had to do for Vince McMahon. So, of course, Jerry Briscoe hated Eric Bischoff's guts because of the things that I did. I almost put him out of business. They were afraid they were going to lose their jobs and their livelihood because of me. And I was very vocal about it. I'd rub their nose in it. I'd make fun of them for it. So there was just a real palpable hatred towards me. And now here I am. I show up. I'm one of the central characters on TV, the quote unquote general manager. So when I showed up, everybody did their best to put their best foot forward and to be professional. But you could sense it was like, oh God, I can't believe I have to do this. I can't believe I have to say hello to this piece of shit. And Bruce was assigned to me as a producer. Bruce was my producer. So anything that I did on camera, Bruce would communicate it to me. He'd produce it, he'd direct it, whatever, backstage stuff. And almost immediately, Bruce was one of the only people that just said, that was then, this is now, let's move forward. And we just developed a great rapport as a talent and a producer. I knew what he was thinking. I knew what he wanted, and I was able to deliver it pretty consistently and make him look good as a result. And I think Bruce learned that, man, I was just fighting for my team. Yeah, I fought pretty dirty because I do fight dirty when I decide to. I don't like to fight, but when I do, I fight to win. I'll avoid it at all costs. But once there's nowhere else to go, here I come. And that's the same way I approach business. I was fighting for my team. And Bruce, I think, recognized that and in his own way respected it. And that was the foundation upon which our relationship built and grew.
When you say agent, was he sort of helping you with your interviews and what you'd have to say as well? I mean, agent in what sort of sense?
Well, no, he was, WWE started calling agents producers a long time ago.
Right.
But when I use the term producer, I'm thinking about it in the traditional television sense. So, I would get a script. Bruce would get that script. There's a segment where I'm involved. If it was a backstage interview and involved 3 or 4 other people, Bruce would get everybody together. He'd get the right camera crew together, put the right audio team together, schedule everything, get all the talent involved, lay out that scene, promo, whatever you want to call it. He would lay out that segment so that we all knew what we were supposed to do. He'd make us run through it a couple times to make sure that it was exactly what he wanted or what Vince wanted. And and he'd produce it and he'd deliver it to Vince. He'd take that scene on tape to Vince, and then Vince would approve it. And then it would go to the truck. That was the process.
When he gets to
So
I'm sorry. When he gets to TNA and you're in TNA, I imagine it must have been so nice to have like a sympathetic ear to talk about all the backstage stuff of who. Because also in the book you say some people should not have been in that office in TNA whatsoever. So was it nice to have Bruce there as someone who I imagine was quite like-minded and an ally of sorts?
It was just nice to work with somebody that knew the business as well or better than I did and operated on the highest levels as opposed to, essentially about, now there were some talented people there. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be overly critical or overly broad in my criticism. There were some very talented people. Not in the office. None of those people could hit their ass with both hands and a compass. But there were some good production people there. Kevin Sullivan, the producer, not the wrestler in Booker, Kevin Sullivan was very good. David Sahadi was very good. He had some real strengths, and there were others, but for the most part, they were all learning on the job, and had no really understanding of the business or really any interest in it. It was like cosplay. Everybody would show up in the office and they had their roles and their titles, but they really had no understanding of the industry that they were in. But with Bruce, it was nice to have somebody that played at a higher level than I ever did to work with, because I just felt like we could achieve more. We could do better work together.